Kyousuke is the next Donk. That's what they all say, and his first big tier 1 event might have you thinking the same. However, there's a lot that makes Donk better, but we'll get into that later. For now, let's look at what makes Kyousuke's aim so consistent and see if we can't learn a trick or two. The big aiming standouts to me are his click timing, his pre-aim, his reactive aim, and overall mouse movement efficiency. Interestingly, there are a bunch of ways we can practice these things in-game that we'll go over later too. Click timing is simply pre-aiming a spot, then clicking when the opponent enters your crosshair. Kyousuke is eerily consistent at this, and as simple as it looks, it's something a lot of players struggle with. In this first clip, you can see the importance of crosshair placement. You need to anticipate if they wide swing so that you have a deeper position on the crosshair, and that gives you enough time to react. Pistol rounds in general are nice for this skill because your opponents are moving quickly and predictably. In this clip, we can see Kyousuke isn't really moving his crosshair much at all. Same here with a rifle. He takes down 4 players only using the mouse to control his spray, but otherwise relying on crosshair placement, click timing, and keyboard movement. Kyousuke really leverages his advantage here, where he knows how his opponents have to peek him and he's ready. When you expect a routine peek like this, that can be a click timing setup. That makes the Deagle and AWP very dangerous in the hands of players who are good at this skill. Kyousuke's consistency with this skill does come down to his great reaction speed, and that is something we can all improve on with a few tricks we'll talk about later. Pay close attention because this one's fast. Kyousuke is actually aiming ahead of his opponent and waiting for the timing. This setup works because he knows his opponent only has one direction he can move. Kyousuke is fast, but how is he so fast? One reason is efficiency. So I'm going to show you the aim trainer here because I want you to pay close attention to the efficiency of the flicking technique. Look at how direct the path is and the velocity of the movement. This is an example of high-level mouse efficiency for just one mouse control technique. When we're in-game, we have a lot of different types of techniques that we need to use, but the more efficient they are, the faster you can aim and adjust as needed. And this is a part of the reason why Kyousuke is as fast as he is. For example, imagine the difference in travel time when driving your car in a straight line to your destination versus in a zigzag. The same principle applies with aim. So when we look at this Deagle clip, it's made possible because Kyousuke's efficiency is so good, and it's something we can all work on. When he's dialed in, he's really good at aiming reactively, which is another struggle players tend to have at the top level. He has a click timing setup, but instantly reacts to the movement with a quick micro upwards. We see a click timing setup here, but because he's got good reactive aim, he's able to adjust to what the target is actually doing and not what he thinks it will do. This is the difference between reactive and predictive aiming. It's again one of the trickiest things for almost every player. Just so you guys can relate better to this idea, this kill is probably familiar to you, where you're pre-aiming something and then you get caught by surprise and you just react without even realizing. As we practice good quality aiming habits, we have this mode switched on more. The reason we tend to be worse at aiming reactively is because we spend a lot of time consciously analyzing the game. We're looking at the minimap, we're focusing on how opponents will peek us specifically, what positions we want, and so on. Kyousuke's fundamentals in decision making and aiming are so efficient and practiced that he's in a state of unconscious competency and is playing the game intuitively on every level. This is why good quality repetition and practice is important, because we need to get to unconscious competency to better activate intuitive and reactive play. So what is it that makes Donk better? Obviously, Donk is still smashing records, coming off his win at IEM Cologne just recently. We know that he's able to carry at the absolute highest level under the most pressure possible. He knows if he doesn't perform, his team won't win. Additionally, he's doing this with a very aggressive playstyle, which in theory should be high variance, but he finds unprecedented consistency. Kyousuke, although capable of playing aggressively, doesn't have, in my opinion, the movement outplay that Donk reliably has, in addition to Donk having more mastery on spray and a better intuitive sense when and how to use it. For me, it's hard to compare these two players as no one plays like Donk, who has broken every mold and expectation for a pro CS player. Kyousuke is more comparable to Nico, being very skilled with the AWP, a hyper-efficient mechanical monster, and a player capable of being aggressive but with more support than Donk might get. With all that said, let's talk about how to train some of the skills we discussed so far. The click timing skill is probably one of the biggest things I want you guys to take away, as Kyousuke really shows how useful it is to hone this basic skill. I felt a huge improvement personally on my pistols, especially by isolating with an aim trainer for this one, as I found it was hard to get volume on that feeling of click timing in Counter-Strike alone. So mixing this focus in on the aim trainer before doing the CSDM can be really complementary, at least that's what I found. And if you want to try the aim trainer approach too, pick dynamic clicking tasks like Pasu. And the goal here is to practice good flicking technique with discipline so there's no spam clicking, and make sure you only click when you are certain you'll get the kill. You want to try and flick your crosshair ahead of the target's trajectory and then wait for the target to enter the crosshair before clicking. This is the proper way to train this skill in aim trainers. You may find you'll overflick a lot in the beginning, and that's fine. Just wait for the target, and over time the overflicking will reduce as you improve. Matty OW has a great video on Pasu instruction if you want more from one of the best. Now, I haven't explored a workshop-only version of this training, as the mix of CS with aim trainers has worked great for me. But if you have some good options for people, spread the love in the comments below so we can all get better together. Another element to this we covered is the crosshair placement itself. And for this, it is about game sense, to know precisely where we should be aiming before waiting. Another reason that game sense is so important is speed. By priming ourselves with anticipation of the peak, our reaction time will improve. But a word of warning, because if you overfocus, you'll slow yourself down. And there's no easy answer to this other than trying to find that sweet spot. The long story short is that if we overfocus, we start to become predictive and no longer reactive. You have to find that balance. And one day I'll do a video with the relevant neuroscience expert to better help us understand why this phenomena exists, because it feels counterintuitive, but that's just how it is. And I think a lot of you can relate in any of those moments when you've held that angle for too long because you're playing Peter Palmer's on the Mirage, or playing platform on B and Dust 2, and just staring down that tunnel and no one's coming, and you just start to get really sluggish. And it's one of the reasons we see players flicking their mouse around when they're holding those cold angles. And that's why we call them cold angles, because there is this issue in focus and it impacts your reaction speed. So it's something that's good to be aware of and to play around with. Now, if you want to improve your mouse efficiency, record VODs of yourself playing. Deathmatch should be fine. Watch Kyousuke or Nico and use them as benchmarks of perfect mouse efficiency, and then ask questions about yours. Is it too slow? Is my pre-aim bad? Do I struggle with big movements or maybe micros? Horizontal aim, vertical aim? Start to break down what looks different and pick a focus and put that focus in your training regimen. Create a specific training routine that addresses that one thing until it begins to feel like it's improving. And then pick the next skill that feels like it's inefficient or lagging behind everything else. Another tip, slow motion on your aim VODs is actually really helpful to see even more inefficiencies. And again, try doing that slow motion, not just to your VODs, but maybe Kyousuke's VODs as well. And you'll honestly see truly how good he is. All right, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys on the next one.